All right, I think we are ready to go here. Before we begin, this is a court reporter. If you are online or on the phone, can you unmute and identify, signal to us that you're here and present? Nothing. Okay, so we will get started anyway. The court reporter will transcribe this as recorded, but we will begin. Good afternoon, everybody. For the record, today is June 27th, 2022. The time is 1:04 p.m. We are at the Pinal Board of Supervisors located at 135 North Pinal Street in Florence, Arizona. This is the time and place for the public hearing on the proposed management plan for the Pinal Active Management Area for the 5th management period. My name is John Riggins. I'm the statewide planning manager at the Arizona Department of Water Resources, and I will be the hearing officer at today's hearing. With me is Natalie Mast, AMA Director, responsible for the management plans. Natalie has been involved in the development of the proposed management plan and will give a brief description of the proposed management plan, including a summary of comments provided by the Pinal Active Management Area Groundwater Users Advisory Council on the draft management plan, data in support of the proposed management plan, and a summary of changes from the 4th management plan. Also with me today from the department are Maggie Martin, Management Plan Specialist, McKenna Welsh, Management Plan Specialist, Sharon Scantlebury, Docket Supervisor, and Kelly Brown, Deputy Counsel, is attending virtually. As I noted, we typically have a court reporter present via webinar, but the court reporter will be transcribing what is being said today. So it is important for all of the speakers to please speak up, speak slowly so that the court reporter can transcribe and accurately record your comments. If anyone has difficulty hearing me or a speaker, please let me know. For those in person, if you haven't already done so, please sign the sign-in sheet on the table near the entrance. There's also speaker cards on the table. If you'd like to speak today, please fill out a speaker card if you haven't done so already and submit your card to Sharon or to Maggie. For those on the webinar, we have provided a link in the virtual speaker card, a link to the virtual speaker card in the chat box and on the screen. The chat box can be opened by clicking the speech bubble icon at the bottom of your screen. If you would like to speak via webinar today, submit your virtual speaker card and staff will call on you when it is your turn to speak. Everyone was muted upon entry to the webinar. Please unmute yourself when it is your turn to speak. For those participating via telephone and not the webinar, and you would like to make a verbal comment, please state and spell your name, and we will call on you when it is your turn to speak. If you would not like to make a comment, please simply stay silent. We will call on all telephone participants to speak after the webinar participants. Persons presenting comments at the hearing, whether in person or virtually, will be allowed no more than 3 minutes to ensure all who wish to speak receive an opportunity to do so. The purpose of this hearing is to provide members of the public the opportunity to make oral or written comments on the proposed management plan for the Pinal Active Management Area for the 5th management period. The proposed plan is available on the department's website. We will not be responding to questions or comments at today's hearing. However, we will do so in writing as part of the formal management plan adoption process. If anyone has any questions or comments on issues or programs that are outside the scope of this hearing, you can contact me or one of our staff after the hearing. The hearing will be conducted in a formal manner. As I mentioned previously, a court reporter will be transcribing everything that is being said. A copy of the transcript of the hearing will be available for review at the department's office and will also be posted on the department's website when it is available. At the conclusion of the hearing, I'll be accepting any written comments or documentary evidence that anyone may wish to submit to the department regarding the proposed management plan. The department will also accept written comments until 5 p.m. today. Written comments submitted up until 5 p.m. today should be submitted to the department's docket supervisor, Sharon Scantlebury, by email and I'll spell this for those participating virtually and on the phone. It is sscantlebury@azwater.gov or fax at 602-771-8686. A copy of the public notice with Sharon's contact information is also posted on the department's website, and her business cards are located on the table near the entrance. Within 30 days from today, the director will make and file in the department a written summary and findings with respect to comments and evidence received at this hearing and prior to 5 p.m. today. If in the findings the director decides to adopt the management plan, the director will make and file with the department an order. Notice of the order will be sent to all persons who signed the attendance sheet today and to all persons who submitted comments or evidence prior to the close of record. Please make sure you provided your physical or email address to receive a copy of the notice. The director will also publish a summary of the plan, findings, and order of adoption once a week for 2 consecutive weeks in the Casa Grande Dispatch. Pursuant to Arizona Revised Statutes Section 45-571 and 45-114 subsection C, any person may file a request for rehearing or review of the adoption within 30 days after the second publication of the notice. The last day for filing request for rehearing or review will be identified in both the mailed and published notices of the order of adoption. If no one files a timely request for rehearing or review, the plan will become final. If a timely request for rehearing or review is filed, the director will have 60 days after receiving the request to issue a decision on the request. The director may grant a rehearing, grant a review without a rehearing, or deny the request. Any person may seek judicial review of the director's decision to adopt the management plan as provided in Arizona Revised Statutes, Section 45-114, subsection C. Within 30 days after the plan becomes final, the department will mail notice of the conservation requirements contained in the plan to all persons who are required to comply with the requirements. Any aggrieved person may request an administrative review of the conservation requirements within 90 days after receiving notice of the requirement as provided by Arizona Revised Statutes, Section 45-575, subsection A. A person who requires additional time to comply with a new conservation requirement may request a variance within 90 days after receiving notice of the requirement pursuant to Arizona Revised Statutes, Section 45-574, subsection A. Now I will turn the hearing over to Natalie Mast, who will describe the proposed plan in greater detail. Natalie.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Natalie Mast, and I am the AMA Director responsible for the management plans at ADWR. The purpose of this presentation is to present data in support of the proposed management plan and to provide a summary of comments made by GUAC members. I will also provide a brief overview of the contents of the proposed plan and the changes as compared to the fourth management plan. The management plans were established as a part of the Groundwater Management Act in 1980. The plan being presented today is the fifth and final in the series of plans established in the Act, and the conservation programs contained in the plan are designed to reduce withdrawals of groundwater. The initial draft of the Pinal Active Management Area 5th Management Plan was published in January 2022. From January to April, ADWR accepted comments and worked to revise the plan in response to those comments. The GUAC comments, which I will summarize shortly, were received during this time period. In May, ADWR published an updated draft incorporating many GUAC member and stakeholder recommendations. On May 19th and 26th, a public notice was published in the Casa Grande Dispatch announcing today's hearing and opening the formal comment period on this plan, which closes at 5 p.m. today. ADWR will publish written findings from today's hearing within 30 days and may adopt the plan at that time. As long as the adoption of the proposed plan occurs within this calendar year, the conservation programs in the plan will go into effect January 1st, 2025, and will remain in effect until the legislature determines otherwise. The recommendations received from the GUAC members covered a broad range of topics. Where comments pointed to errors or data inconsistencies, we worked to verify the information provided to make corrections. Additional style and data recommendations were incorporated in some cases. The comments received were diverse in nature, but some recurring topics included concerns about the proposed recharge and recovery requirement updates, concerns about safe yield and the amount of time allotted for discussion, and general typographical and data clarifications. There were also comments expressing appreciation for improvements made to the clarity and organization of the document. The full text of any written comments received during both the informal and formal comment periods are posted on the management plans page on ADWR's website as they are received. I will now provide a brief overview of some data related to the AMA and a summary of the proposed plan. The Pinal Active Management Area is one of 4 original AMAs established as part of the 1980 Groundwater Management Act. It includes the Maricopa-Stanfield, Eloy, Aguirre Valley, at Santa Rosa Valley, and Vicult Valley subbasins. Oh, there it goes. This graph shows how groundwater demands have changed over time. The top dark blue line is total statewide groundwater use. The middle green line is total active management area groundwater use. And the bottom light blue line is Pinal AMA groundwater use. Statewide and AMA groundwater use have remained fairly flat over time, and groundwater use in the Pinal AMA has increased slowly over time. Additional increases in groundwater use are anticipated in this AMA as Colorado River water becomes less available in the Pinal AMA over time. The graph on the screen now shows how water use is broken down by sector in the Pinal AMA. The different colors represent the sectors. Gold is municipal, teal is agricultural, red is industrial, and dark blue is tribal water use. The agricultural sector represents about 94% of water demands in the Pinal AMA. AMA agriculture, that agricultural use which is subject to the AMA conservation requirements, is about 72% of the total water demand in the AMA. Agricultural water use and total water use have trended slightly upward in the Pinal AMA over time. This graph shows the supplies used to meet those demands in each year. The teal line represents Colorado River water. The red line represents groundwater. The gold line represents surface water, and the black line represents effluent. As I mentioned on the last slide, total water use has trended slightly upward in the Pinal AMA. The Pinal AMA increased its usage of Colorado River water in the early 1990s, but these volumes have decreased in recent years, due to scheduled reductions to the ag pool and due to shortage. Groundwater use increased in the time period on the graph, and this is expected to further increase in the future. Next, I'll provide some information about the proposed management plan and some additional data specific to some of the programs contained in that draft plan. One of our major goals for the 5 MPs was to streamline these documents. Much of that streamlining could be achieved by referring to supplemental information rather than including extensive detail within the plan. For example, rather than extensively detailing geologic structures and hydrologic conditions, we point to the most recent model report. This both allows the management plan to be streamlined and also ensures that the reader is directed to the most up-to-date information available. This was particularly important for the 5 MP due to the indefinite timeline of this plan. By streamlining, we were able to condense the document from 11 chapters to 8 chapters. We also added an executive summary, which provides a brief overview of the document and helps to point the reader to additional detail throughout. The proposed management plan contains 8 chapters, many containing data, analysis, and background information. Chapters 4, 5, and 6 also contain the continuing mandatory conservation programs for agricultural, municipal, and industrial water users, respectively. These programs are designed to reduce withdrawals of groundwater. Okay. Another way we streamlined the document was moving much of the data online. Previous plans had extensive data tables printed in the document, but those tables were unable to be corrected if errors were found and could not be updated with additional years of data over time. The growth of interactive online tools has allowed us to move much of that previously static data online, allowing us to provide additional detail and to improve our transparency by making more of our data more readily available. In addition to interactive tools and downloadable data on our data page, we also published a comprehensive report which includes a description of the aspects of safe field, how ADWR analyzes those aspects, and the status of each AMA with regard to its management goal. We plan to present more information about this report at a future GUAC meeting. The result of these structural updates is a plan that is more accessible, easier to navigate, and with data and references that will remain updated despite the indefinite timeline of the 5MP. In addition to the structural changes, the 5MP also contains significant updates to conservation requirements. In the Ag chapter, the updates are broad and occur across 3 programs. The default conservation program for Ag is what we call the base program, an allotment-based program based on historic acreages and historically grown crops. For this program, statute allows for a 5% reduction to the top 25% of water duties within a series of limitations. For the BMP program, which is an optional alternative program, extensive updates were made to the list of BMPs, minimum points requirements, and minimum points requirements for several categories were updated. These updates were made in collaboration and with the recommendation of the BMP Advisory Committee chaired by Scott Reagans. Finally, there is an additional optional alternative program for the 5MP, which allows someone farming multiple IGFRs to combine the allotments of those IGFRs with a 5% cut to the aquifer, enabling that person to submit a single annual report to use any of that combined allotment anywhere across the combined footprint of those IGFRs, and encouraging using the water on the most efficient lands while still contributing to reductions in withdrawals of groundwater. In the municipal chapter, we again have multiple programs. The major updates were to the programs for large municipal providers or those supplying more than 250 acre-feet of water for non-irrigation use. The GPCD program is the default program for large providers who have a designation of assured water supply, and providers who are not designated may not participate in the GPCD program. The 5MP draft language contains an updated calculation for the GPCD requirement, which uses a rolling average of the provider's historic GPCD to calculate the provider's requirement. The calculation functions to apply downward pressure to a provider's GPCD, allowing for a number that is customized to that provider, can reasonably be achieved, and reflects reductions in withdrawals of groundwater through that downward pressure on GPCDs over time. The non-per capita program is a BMP style program for large municipal providers. Designated providers may opt into this program, and undesignated providers are required to be in this program. Significant updates were made to the BMP list for this program. and updates were made to the points, targets, and tiers for this program. In the industrial chapter, several subsectors have proposed updates. For power plants, a minor update allows for a modification to be made to cycles of concentration requirements if blowdown water will be beneficially reused. For golf courses, the method for calculating conservation allotments was redesigned to better reflect overseeding practices and more recent consumptive use analyses. For non-golf turf facilities, the allotment calculation was split in two: a less generous calculation for facilities with greater than 30% water-intensive landscape, and a more generous calculation for facilities with less than or equal to 30% water-intensive landscape. This is designed to incentivize those with more efficient types of landscapes and includes a provision to provide a consideration for parks and schools where additional turf may have functional purposes like sports fields. Finally, an alternative mining conservation program was added as a BMP style option for metal mining facilities. Finally, I would like to acknowledge the fact that these management plans are very much a team effort, with enormous work put in by management plans and AMA staff, by other staff from across the department, and with significant input from other state agencies, from GUAC members, and from the regulated community. We would not be here today without the collaborative effort of all of these people and many more. So thank you to all who contributed in any way. With that, I thank you for your time and attention, and I will hand it back over to John, who will be calling our speakers.
Thank you, Natalie. So that moves us on to the comment portion of the hearing. First, we'll just start with the telephone participants. If anybody is participating via telephone and not on the webinar who would like to make a verbal comment, please state and spell your name now. We'll unmute you when it's your turn to speak. If you would not like to make a comment, please just simply stay silent. We'll call on the telephone participants after we have the webinar participants. So we will unmute any telephone participants now. Anyone from the phones wish to provide comment? All right, hearing none. Well, I'll call on that again. Will be another opportunity. If anyone has filled out a speaker card in the room, please be advised that those presenting comments at the hearing, whether in person or virtual, will be subject to the 3-minute time limit to ensure all who wish to speak receive an opportunity to do so. So I will now begin calling names of the persons who filled out speaker cards here in person. If you wish to speak and have not filled out a speaker card, please fill out one of the cards on the table near the entrance and submit it to Sharon. When I call your name, please come up to, well, there's no podium, but we just need you near the speaker here. So imagine a podium in this corner of the table here. Please come up, state your name, state and spell your name, excuse me, identify any person or entity that you represent, and then give your comments. After you've completed your comments, you can go ahead and have a seat here in the room. Do we have? Okay. Going once. Hearing none. Let the record reflect that no one in person wishes to speak. Let me move on to the virtual speaker card. I'll now begin calling names of the persons who filled out virtual speaker cards. If you are participating via webinar and wish to speak and have not filled out a virtual speaker card, please submit the form available through the chat feature or the web address that you see on the slide. When I call your name, staff will help unmute you. Please state and spell your name, identify any person or entity that you represent, and then give your comments. As a reminder, there is a 3-minute time limit. Do we have anyone participating virtually? I see 0 responses. All right, no one has filled out a virtual card indicating that they would like to present comments. So let the record reflect that no one on the webinar wishes to speak.
Well, it looks like it's a good thing you put that 3-minute limit.
Last call, anyone telephone? No. All right. Thank you. Is there anyone who wishes to submit any written comments or evidence that they've brought with them here today? Looks like no, so let the record reflect no one wishes to submit any written comments or evidence. As I mentioned earlier, written comments on the proposed management plan may be submitted until 5 p.m. today. If you'd like to submit written comments after the close of the hearing, but no later than 5 p.m. today, please fax or email them to Sharon Scantleberry, the docket supervisor. Her fax number again is 602-771-8686. And her email address is on the cards here and also on the notice on the website. And Sharon's business cards with her contact information are on the table located by the entrance. So that concludes this public hearing. Is now adjourned. Thank you all for attending and have a great day. Thanks.